Okay, so here we are in Pharma now. We're with Kimberly Lupo, founder and CEO of Portrett. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much, Michael.
So, Kimberly, why don't you start with sharing your journey from the very beginning, from starting as a bench chemist to founding Portrett Pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, so in undergrad, I kind of had this idea that I wanted to start my own lab. And so I went on to grad school, and immediately after grad school, I got a job at Metrics Incorporated in Greenville, North Carolina, which was a solid oral dose CDMO. And I was in the testing laboratory there, running stability samples, and just fell in love with the contract space. I learned a lot about the pharma industry and how it all worked, and the being kind of behind the scenes and helping patients indirectly was really exciting for me. And then I moved up very quickly, learned a lot, went into management, and as I got into middle management, and I really got a lot more interaction with clients, and I had a lot of the clients were kind of complaining about their API contract testing laboratories, and I really felt like I could make a difference and do things a little differently. And so that eventually led me to start Portrait Pharmaceuticals a few years ago.
Well, I guess this is a pretty typical path for entrepreneur, for a founder and entrepreneur to feel like there's something they might be able to do better and
Absolutely.
start, from scratch. But you decided to take a regulatory affairs certification. But why is that? I mean, you were doing contract testing, right?
Yeah, so during my time at Main Pharma, so Metrics got purchased by Main Pharma, and they had kind of two divisions. They had the contract side of things, and then they also had a generic products division. And for a short period of time of about 15 months, I moved over to the generic products division, and I got a lot more exposure into the regulatory side of things, what needed to be in the FDA filing, what needed to be uh, in the CMC sections, and how my testing reflected that. And so it really made me interested in getting my regulatory affairs certification, just because I wanted to have that knowledge. And then kind of through the process, I went back to the contract testing side of things, and it really helped me understand the client's needs more. And I was actually able to provide guidance and uh, help to them, based off of, when they were asking questions, do we need this? Or, uh, you know, what's the FDA going to think about this? And it really allowed me to give better customer service to my clients. So it's been good all around.
Yeah, yeah. And you also have an MBA, right? But you took it while you were working with Main Pharma. So
Mhm.
how did your experience in Main Pharma influence your decision to pursue an MBA and eventually then start your own company?
I've always looked up. And so as I was in, as I got into middle management, I noticed that all of the executives had their MBA. And so I started questioning it, do I need that to be in the C-suite? Um, is that something that's mandatory or what have you? So at the time I reached out to several people, but one of those people was Stephen Cross, who was the president of Main Pharma at the time. And he really encouraged me to get my MBA. He encouraged me um, to continue to pursue that dream of being in the C-suite. And so while I worked at Main Pharma, I pursued my MBA online from East Carolina, and it's helped give me a basic knowledge of a lot of concepts and things that I would not have known starting a business if I didn't have it. So it's definitely been helpful when I'm talking to investors, bankers, even my CPA. I can actually be knowledgeable in those conversations and not feel completely lost. So it's been helpful that way.
It gives you the dictionary to talk, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So eventually you found a Portrett. So how does Portrett differentiate itself from uh, other companies in the competitive landscape of the pharmaceutical landscape?
Yeah, so Portrait, I developed a unique process flow
Mhm.
that pretty much eliminates the queues. So if you go to a large CDMO, your sample gets sent, it sits in a sample queue until it gets assigned to the analyst. The analyst performs the testing, the data gets set in a queue to review the data, then it also gets set into a queue for quality review. Then some companies even have a queue to generate the report and give the data to the client. We pretty much do everything in real time. So data gets real time reviewed on a daily basis. We initiate testing within 1 business day of sample receipt or when they get pulled out of the chamber. QA review happens immediately after the data packet is technically reviewed. So we are doing things in less than half the time of our competitors. So for instance, a typical stability study you can have results between 4 and 5 weeks from our competitors, and we've been averaging 2 weeks. So the sample
Oh,
gets pulled out of the chamber and we give you a report in 2 weeks. And so that's one of our main differentiators. But we are still small, and something else that we do is communicate effectively. We're responsive. We actually answer your emails. You don't have to pull information out of us. So we definitely want to be responsive and helpful in any way we can, whether it's, I mean, sometimes we have to deliver bad news, and that's okay, because, it's part of the job and that's what we have to do. But we don't delay in doing that. We communicate in real time as well.
well, you're testing, right? So things can go good, things can go wrong.
Yeah,
Really depends on what you're testing, right? So I
absolutely.
believe
I mean,
it's part of the process.
yep.
Yeah, and I mean, during from when you found Portrait till now, this scaling up. What year was that? Like 2020, 2021,
So
when you found it?
we started in October of 2021.
Okay, 2021. Perfect.
Mhm.
So while scaling up, what challenges have you faced with Portrait, and how do you address them?
I guess the biggest challenge has just been sales. I guess first you have to establish brand awareness. You got to get your name out there, and people have to know who you are before they can even reach out to you and request testing. And then, me being a chemist, I'm not a salesperson. So I've had to take some sales training and spend a lot of time learning and doing things that I weren't comfortable doing in order to sell our services. So that's something that you have to kind of do as an entrepreneur, is do the things that you're not comfortable with or learn how to do them. And sales was one of those things. Something else is just having enough people and instrumentation to be able to, to perform the testing that's needed. And one thing that I've done is I've leveraged part-time talent. So that helps with cost, keeping the cost down. But I have both of my QA people right now are part-time. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And so that allows me to, utilize both of them differently. And I don't necessarily have to have one person that can do it all full time. So that's been really helpful too.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about the team, I guess one of the key elements for a startup to grow and to grow properly, not only to, start off and go into the market, but also, grow healthy, I would say, is to have a good team, a strong team with a good culture. So how do you foster professional and personal development among your team members?
Well, I've always been a proponent of professional and personal development. I want to be the best person that I can be, and I want my employees to be the best people that they can be, and I want them to be who they want to be. So, I really have conversations about where they want to go, who they want to be in 5 years, what do they want to be doing personally and professionally. You know, a lot of the younger generation that's coming up, and a couple of my employees, they're just coming out of school. So in 5 years, they're going to want to be having families and doing things very different than what they're doing now. So I want to support that path personally and allow for flexible hours. We allow them to kind of choose what hours they want, either 4 10s or 5 9s or what have you. And then professionally, I try to give them as many opportunities as I can. I train them on all the instrumentation that we have. Last week, I had one of my analysts accompany me to CPHI to get exposure to a lot of the pharmaceutical industry that she hadn't never gotten experience from. Next week, I'm taking a different analyst to the ECU Pharma conference that is real technical in nature, and she's going to learn a lot of different things from the talks that are happening there. So I try to give them a lot of training opportunities, and just if they say they want to do something, I'm going to give them opportunities and give them the tools that they need to do in order to pursue that goal.
That's great. That's great. And connecting people with the customer service that you mentioned before, you said that sometimes you have to deliver bad news and everything. And certainly the customer service is one of the key points of Portrett. So what role does actually customer service play in Portrett's operations? And how do you ensure the customer satisfaction, even when you deliver bad news?
Yeah, well, customer service is critical to our success, and that's we love our customers. We want to provide them the best service possible. But I mean, we're truthful and we communicate in real time. And even if it is bad news, what we try to do is to come with, we don't just deliver the news, this is what it is. We try to come with solutions to whatever the issue is or potential fixes. And so we try to offer, it's not just, us downloading good or bad news. It's a collaboration. We want to work with you. Let's talk about what we can do and how we can fix this. And so that's a critical, it's just communication, and it's just real communication, respectful communication. Is all what it's about.
Yeah, I was talking to someone and he used to say to me, he said that multiple times that customer service is about being people connecting to people,
Mhm.
right? If you have to say something, you have to say it anyway, right? If you connect to the other person who's on the other end and you just say whatever you have to say and you're there to help them, that's how customer service happens.
Well,
So
and you
you,
have to
you
put yourself in their shoes. They want the information, they need the information, and so you
know,
have to provide it. And so you just have to think about how you would want to hear it and what you would want it to look like. And so that's what we try to do.
yeah, yeah. And well, as we wrap up this interview, I would like to have uh, advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs in the pharmaceutical industry? I mean, I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm 31. I'm starting off my journey, and a lot of people is. So, what advice would you give to people who is about to or just started to jump into the entrepreneurial side of the pharmaceutical industry?
So I have two main points, I would say. First is minimal viable product or service. So think about how you can provide your service or your product with as minimal input as possible. You need to get revenue going. And so think about how you can do it as cheaply as possible while still producing a good product or a good service. That's going to help you That's kind of something I didn't do. It was a lesson I learned. I tried to do too much too fast. And so just be slow and do it as cheap as possible, but still offering a good, viable service or product. The second thing would be find a good mentor, network, talk to people that's in your industry. And don't just talk to people that's going to tell you what you want to hear. Find people that is going to tell you what you need to hear, that's done it before, that's really going to be honest with you, and that's going to give you real life experience. That was one thing that I struggled with, was finding people, because I'm kind of in a niche market. I'm very, very niche. CDMO is huge, but then I'm just doing a little piece of small molecule analytical testing. And so to find somebody that started an analytical lab, it's very difficult in the pharma space. And so fortunately, through my network, I was able to find a few people that I trusted, and they've been extremely helpful to me as I started. And so it's important to get out, network, meet as many people as you possibly can, and ask questions to those people that you meet.
Yeah,
Ask the questions you're curious about.
yeah, yeah. And you definitely need people to tell you the hard things, right?
Yeah,
You don't need a yes man. You need someone who
yeah,
tells you what's wrong and what you need to change,
yeah,
which is kind of
absolutely.
hard to hear, right? It's the hardest part to hear, but it's
Yeah,
part of the game, I suppose.
yeah, yeah. And I try to be, when it's necessary, I try to be that person, that sounding board to people. I'm really big on helping people, and so I don't necessarily tell them everything they want to hear. I mean, I speak it with grace and professionalism, but I try to, because it's something that I didn't have early on. I needed somebody to tell me, you need to do this differently, or you need to think about this, and so that's important, finding that person.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, for your very precious, and thank you for being here. And see you
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Bye.